Secretary. All right.
All right, thanks for the
Well,
reminder.
welcome, everybody. I'm going to have Matt help to manage the stack this morning. But if you'll use the raise hand function, it's easier to order everyone's comments and keep the conversation flowing. Otherwise, if you raise your hand, we'll try to get you in order. Matt and I can't raise our hands as the host, so we'll just be interrupting and rude to you. But that's why we are not raising our hands. So our only new face in the room is Susan, and we will be giving her a chance to introduce herself in just a few moments. So
Kathy, before everybody got on, Matt reminded people that the raise hand function is in reactions.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, lower right of the screen typically.
Right.
Learned that too.
Okay.
Well, maybe I don't have the latest, greatest. Mine's still under participants.
Okay.
I guess it depends what version you have.
Right, and as long as it's working. Okay, well, our very first order of business is to approve this agenda, and I hope everyone's had a chance to look it over. It's not the longest agenda we've ever had, depending on how long our discussions go. You can see the time that we try to allot to each item. Does anybody have anything that they would like to put back into the agenda, or have a problem with an agenda item that they think it should be tabled to a later time? All right, seeing no comment then, can I have a motion to approve this agenda?
That's a motion.
A second.
All right, so the move was by?
A male voice beat me.
Did I get it?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So Matt made the motion. Karen, you seconded?
Yes.
All right, just for the record, someone's going to have to transcribe all of this. So. All right, then on to the previous board minutes, which were generously transcribed by Laura Evie from our last board meeting recording. I hope everyone had a chance to review that and hope that it jibes with your memory of the events of that meeting. If not, this is the time to correct even name spellings. This is just what goes into the record. And as tedious as this all is, this is one of the major reasons why we exist, is we have to have a formal record of our meetings to satisfy the IRS that we are indeed a nonprofit and conducting nonprofit business. So they are important. Seeing Karen.
My name is spelled with S-E-N at the last syllable.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We will make a note of that and hopefully get it right going forward.
Sorry about that, Karen.
Anything else? All right, then, can I have a motion to accept the minutes from last quarter's meeting?
I'll make the motion. It's Robin.
Robin has moved to accept the minutes. A second, please.
I'll second it.
Okay,
It's
okay,
with
Lori.
my own notes. I guess I'll second it.
Oh, very good. All in favor then? Sorry, I didn't call a vote.
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? None? They are approved. All right. So, given Kathleen's situation, and it is open-ended, we have no idea, and she has no idea, when she is going to feel comfortable about moving back into the position of secretary, we need to have just an acting secretary so that we can at least have the minutes recorded and not have someone else like Lori, who is already serving in several functions beyond just being a board member, be the person to do that chore. So I was going to look among the rest of you for a volunteer to do that. And short of that, if you know anyone in your active steering committees maybe perhaps someone who serves as a secretary in your steering meetings that we could bring in just simply to serve the basic function of keeping us legal until we can have someone. Yeah, Lori.
I did have a conversation with Kathleen, and she said that she had the arrangement and agreement with Denise when she took on the secretary role, that would be the only role that she does. And so that means in my last conversation with her, she said, so I can't really, be acting for this one, which is December, which I don't mind. I kind of got this down, transcribing a meeting. So I don't mind taking the notes from the recording this time. And then she said that she would refill that position by our next board meeting. However, that means that we have an opening for a sustainable Carmel lead. I don't know if that's going to be you, Ellen, because not just to confirm what she said, okay, I can do this, but I said, that means you can't do that. So she would like to be off the hook for that if she's going to be the secretary. So Ellen, will you take on that role officially, or do you have somebody else that could, or you have in mind?
Well, we're down to 3 of us, just Chris Mack and myself and Karen, and Kathleen. And Chris is great in what he does. However, he doesn't spread himself too thinly. So I guess, I'm it. So just remind me what the responsibilities of a lead are.
Well, you're supposed to have meetings, but I don't, regular meetings, but I don't have with Sustainable Monterey. So it's just being the conduit and the leader for that and representing that. And as things come out, you spread it with, you share it with your group and extended members, but.
Oh, okay, let me just clarify. I thought you meant that Kathleen was secretary and also the lead for Sustainable Carmel on the CSMC board. And she was asking if I would be the lead person between.
She wasn't asking, she was just asking to relinquish her role as the Carmel lead because she has just too much on her plate and she can do the secretary, but yeah.
So the question is, will I be the contact person, the liaison between CSMC and Sustainable Carmel? I just wanted to be sure she wasn't asking me to take over the leadership of Sustainable Carmel. So
yeah, she is.
She is?
That's what a lead is. It's a
no, but she is our chair. And I just wanted to be sure.
She doesn't want to be chair of Sustainable Carmel anymore.
Well, I still guess I have no choice. It's
it can be an open position and we can you can.
Well, I'm already co-chair and treasurer.
Yeah. So.
No, but
we don't in Monterey, we don't have a treasurer. We just have myself. And so just being as co-chair, we're just asking to take off the co from your title.
Okay.
Or keep it like that. We'll recruit for somebody. It can be a vacancy, but okay. I need
I'll talk to Kathleen about that. But anyway, thanks for sharing with me. And it's kind of hard to recruit new members during the pandemic because we're not having events and we don't really have a mailing list and a way of
we're all treading water in that regards, but it's just for Kathleen to come back as secretary. She just said she can't do both. And so if we want her as secretary, we need to find, somebody else to be the lead somehow. Like I said, I don't hardly do anything just for Monterey.
All right. I was just semantically trying to understand what I was volunteering for.
We can all keep our ears open for things like that. Okay.
I won't take any more time. Thank you for that announcement and for that clarification. And my heart is always in this, and I'm working on getting my energy up to speed so I can do more on the outer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ellen, for being so gracious to accept this responsibility on the fly. You never know what is going to happen at the board meeting when you show up. So we really appreciate that you showed up this morning. And I will welcome Kathleen back in March to resume her secretarial duties. All right. Next, again, in your read ahead packet, you had both a letter of intent and an incredible CV for Susan Myers. So she should not be a stranger to you. I'm going to give her the floor and let her speak for herself about her impending board membership. Susan. Oh, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for considering me for this. I'm really excited. I was involved just briefly in CSMC when I lived in Pleasant Hill, and I had I spent weekends down here, and I just really loved the organization. I liked all the things that you guys were highlighting and fighting for, but I kind of felt like I didn't have enough time. But during the beginning of the pandemic, my husband and I moved down here permanently, and I got reacquainted with some of the folks in Sustainable PG, and they asked me if I would be interested in this position, which I said, absolutely, I would be interested in this position. So a little bit about myself. I think you have that attached to the agenda today, but I was a real estate attorney in my former life for 35 years, and stopped practicing about right at the beginning of COVID. And then I just kind of didn't, I wanted to do something to give back. And this is what I want to do. I'm also doing Meals on Wheels, but this is where my heart is. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions, happy to get involved in whatever you guys think I could be most beneficial in. I'm working a little bit with Lori on the plastics SB 1383. A little bit, Lori. So anyway, thank you.
Great. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Susan?
Only that I'm thrilled to have her on the team.
Thank you, Lori.
My comments are gratitude and thank you.
Well, thank you.
And welcome.
Well, I think that Ellen's experience is a forewarning that you have put yourself there and
in a hot seat.
No telling what the ask will be, but we will at least ask and know that you always have the right of decline. We are all volunteers. Every single one of us, every single person involved with CSMC, we have no paid staff. And it is a blessing and a curse. That really does put a lot of obligation on each of us to not just attend board meetings, but to be activist board members. We really, really appreciate all of the professional experience that all of us individually, but collectively bring to our efforts here. And obviously we aren't going to bill for it. And being a retired person, it is an adjustment. Robert, you had a question or a comment?
Well, I just also wanted to welcome Susan to the board and just mention that historically, I guess I'm the oldest person with the organization. I was one of the original founders of the organization back in 2005. And SPG was our first chapter. We started out with just SPG, and it really went over good. We had the city manager on our staff of SPG, and I'm glad that Susan is active in SPG and you're in the beautification committee too.
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's also fairly recent, but we're trying to make it pretty active.
Yeah, good. And I know that Adventures by the Sea has been wanting to work with us for a while, and we may do
Mhm.
something there. I don't know how that's I don't know how that's going right now, but
There's active dialogue, and I know with respect to Lovers Point, they're putting in some drinking refillable station water refill stations, and helping with a big cleanup project, like how to manage trash better.
yeah.
So they're a great partner.
And I think they've made a donation too, right?
They have, yes.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Terrific. Any other comments, questions for Susan? Karen? Oh, you have to unmute yourself. Karen?
Those water fountains, those refill stations are our big idea, or at least PG and Monterey's big idea from Monterey County Gives last year.
Well, they're great. I mean, I think you can't, I would like to have more. I think we have 3 planned. I'd like to have more up and down the county.
Yeah, we're just like they said with the plastic ordinances, say you go first. So you've gone first on the PG's gone first on the water fountain. So we're all looking to ride your coattails and adopt it across the other cities.
I think it's it's got to be the wave of the future.
No, sure. And it's the proactive thing. Believe me, you participate in enough cleanups, it'd be a lot better just not to have the garbage there in the first place.
Right.
And have legions of volunteers out picking up after people. So
Not a
Great.
sustainable practice.
Right.
And refillable bottles, fountains are much better, especially during COVID, than the regular ones where you just put your mouth down on it.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, not only sustainable, but more hygienic too.
But yes, the hygiene.
Well, all right. Any other questions, comments? I would love to entertain a motion from someone to accept Susan Meyer's.
I make a motion that we have Susan be on our board.
I'll second it. Oh,
All in
Karen
favor?
seconded it.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
I hear ayes from all. Any opposition? Thank you so much, Susan. We
Thank
welcome
you, guys.
open arms. All right. Well, please feel free to weigh in on all future matters of this board from this moment on. I'm going to turn the floor over to Lori Evie, who is chairing our planning committee for our next strategic planning retreat. And I won't say any further about that.
Okay. So I have met with Susan Burnett. She's the one who facilitated our it was 3-4 years ago, right? And good news, she's agreed to do it again this year. And so what she's going to do, and I met with her, had a chance to meet with her once before she went off. Her dad died. She had all kinds of things coming up, but we set a date, and what she looked at the current plan, and what she's going to do is, in our last current plan, we said our strategic goals were to influence legislation, educate the community, and enable action. And then we had communications and it was like fundraising community engagement, right? And so when you look at all those things, they're kind of like how we're going to, it's kind of more infrastructure and operations. And I felt that just listening to y'all, I felt like we're kind of at a point of, all right, that's how we're going to work. I mean, Matt's helped us set up this communications. We have a domain now. We have a drive, and we've gotten a lot of things in place. We've improved the website. There's education part on the website. So this next strategic plan will be reviewing what have we accomplished, against those goals, but not in a whole lot of detail. And then what I suggest, because another thing that's happened since then was we've come up with that flower diagram of, how we're going to engage the community, and have those central topics that people work across, local action groups on that relate to them. So a lot has happened since our last strategic plan. And what I would like to see is what are we going to focus our efforts on? Our communications in our community. What are we going to focus them on things that would benefit and impact the whole, Monterey County? And so that's what she's going to be doing. In the next few weeks, we'll put out a little survey of, looking at the plan, like what have we achieved? What are we most proud of? And then it'll be a list of topics of what would you like the next strategic plan to focus on? And there'll be some areas of recommended, focus on what we've done. Let's see. So that'll be coming out, and then we picked a date. Oh, I know. And Susan and I are working, we kind of realized this, oh my gosh, this SB 1383, that impacts everybody. I mean, all residents, and it's huge. And it's also, I won't get into it, but it's really like we said, influence legislation. Well, California has already done that. They've already identified the biggest impact of climate change that we could do is keeping food waste out of the landfills that's 84 times more, potent than CO2. So they've already kind of done that for us. So now it's up to us to implement and make it happen. So that's a candidate for us to focus on in the next few years, because it's going to be a few years. So that's one idea. But then we also kind of said so I've been reading these books on how to engage the community around environmental topics. And I also learned that Paul Hawkins, his first book that he came out on climate change was called Drawdown. I know Denise used it as a Bible, where can we apply our energies and efforts that's going to have the most impact. And Paul Hawkins' new book, can you read this? I can't. Mm-hmm. It's Regeneration, Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation. And it's really, really cool. It gets right down to the core. They have a whole website. Anyway, and in one of our last talks, I know Robin was saying, well, let's consider this regeneration instead of just sustainability in our strategic plan. So to make a long story short, we bought a book for all of you to review. Okay. So I have it I have 12 books here right now, and I'll either deliver them to you or you can pick them up. And I would just suggest reading through that before we go through our strategic plan to see where can our whole community have the biggest impact, considering our our structure and mission, and what can we get for the biggest bang. So so I'll be giving you this, and a survey will be coming out, and then we need to pick a date, which is the last Saturday in February, or other Saturdays in March, except for the 12th. That's all I have to say on the strategic plan. Any questions?
Sharon.
Thank you, Lori. How many chapters are in this book, and should we create ourselves as a book club where we assign a chapter a week and we get together on Zoom to discuss them in advance, or is that just too much?
Well, what we can do is we could have I think I've only read through a few of them. What's really cool is that one of the first things he says is that you have to have equity. You can't just have some people, that it's all intertwined, the social, economical, and that you can't have one without the other kind of equity. So I think it'd be good for all of us to kind of read through it. And I think it's important that each one of us going into the strategic plan and answering this question of where do I think it'll answer that question. I think that everyone has to kind of do that individually. But there'll be obviously some things that don't apply to us. given what Monterey County is, but yeah, I think that might be a little too much. Maybe after the strategic plan, we can do that.
And, I want to make a plug for the planning committee that Lori is heading up. If you are thinking at this moment, gee, I'm not sure this is what I thought the strategic plan retreat should cover. Well, then I would suggest that maybe you join Lori's committee so that you can influence what that actual retreat's going to be. And it's certainly with Susan Burnett there as well, since she's facilitating, she needs to hear what do these people want to get out of this retreat, and make sure that we aren't missing very strongly held feelings about what we should accomplish that day. So short of participating on the committee, you certainly need to communicate with the committee something that, I think you're overlooking this major objective that we should fulfill in doing this retreat. But better would be to actually serve on the committee. My past experience with the two that we've had before is it is a lot of effort to plan one of these events. And the quality of the event is definitely a reflection of how much thoughtfulness and planning has been put into it. So for that commercial, Ellen, you have your raised hand.
Yes. Two suggestions: that we make it as late in March as we can. It gives us more time to have read the book and more time to see where restrictions of meeting is going. And in answer to Karen's suggestion, how I understood it is that if we did a book club and we would Zoom discussing chapters, it's like taking the book in bite-sized pieces with bite-sized timetables rather than, trying to get.
Yeah. I'm open to that. I like that idea. Susan, you comment?
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to say right now because I haven't read the book. Like Laura, you said some of the stuff doesn't really apply to us. I think if we read it individually, certainly we could have Zoom and talk about how some of it didn't apply, maybe draw out things that did, or kind of lead into what the next chapter is going to discover. So I'm certainly not opposed to a weekly Zoom call. It would make us read it kind of all at a pace. So I'm open.
I agree. I like that idea.
How many chapters?
There's a thing on like how to use the book, and he said you could just it's on oceans, forests, wilding, land, people, the city, food, energy, industry, action, and connection. And it's like kind of where to start. So a lot of chapters.
Well,
So maybe how about if we all get this to you, I get this to you all in the next week, can scan through it over the holidays, and then let's schedule a little book club review to figure out which ones we want to, rule out or delve more into. And that way you've all had a chance to kind of scan through it. How's that sound?
I think that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Good idea, Karen. So a week in January, is a Saturday morning to review this for a book club meeting or what?
I'm always busy on Saturday mornings with C4SM or here.
So an evening, a 7:00 evening?
I would be more available.
Kathy, why don't we use one of our executive committee meetings for a book review club? How about that? Since
Could do that. Right now they're on the first and third Tuesdays at 7:00.
How about that?
That's Marina City Council night.
All right, that does it. Mm-hmm.
On a Tuesday night?
first and third Tuesdays normally.
Oh, really?
Well, Lori, let's, well, we certainly want all the board on board. So maybe it's good we establish this now so that we don't lose people right out the gate because they simply aren't available.
What about the second and fourth Tuesday night then at 7?
The fourth Tuesday is Delray Oaks City Council.
Okay.
All right, how about the second Tuesday? Because I don't think they want to do it two times a month. So how about the second Tuesday in January? We'll start.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. 7 o'clock.
And then Robin, you've been patiently with your raised hand.
Yeah, changing over from sustainability to regeneration is a huge leap. I mean, I've been dealing with it in terms of soil and water because of the committees I'm on. And to go from like conventional viewpoint that thinks about sustainability going to regeneration, that's a leap. It's like another world, actually. So I'm looking forward to reading this book and getting more of a handle on how we would apply this across our groups, because our local action groups we're very independent. It's like herding cats, sort of trying to get us together because we all really are on our own paths with the common theme of our goal of sustainability. Now we're talking about regeneration, and that's a big deal. So I'm looking forward to how to change our mission, in essence, from sustainability to regeneration, and having our local action groups buy into this. It's a pretty big, I mean, just my own little bit of experience with it, it's huge. So I'm looking forward to reading the book, and I'm looking forward to our meeting. I just forgot the term for it, or
Strategic plan or book review.
Yeah, the
Strategic plan.
Strategic plan. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but so I'm looking forward to us reading the book as a group and then having it discussed at our strategic plan. I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's a huge leap. It really is, and I think the book club idea is good after we've had a chance to review it a little bit. So, yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Okay. Robert?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I have it on my calendar already, the 11th of January, 7 p.m. And I think we can make a decision then how to proceed about this book. I'll have the book completely read by then. No, really, you have to look. The book is, there's two different things. A strategic plan is separate from the book. The book is not a strategic plan. The book gives you some background information about climate change and what maybe some ideas of what we could do about it. But it's a separate thing. It's basically background information for us to have in our minds, be educated. So when we do our strategic plan, we all sort of talking from the same wavelength.
Right.
And we may decide at that meeting, hey, we don't need to do a book club, or yes, we should have a book club. But usually a book like this, you don't read every chapter in detail. You look at the chapters, and some you may sort of skip, or some you may want to read in more detail. It depends on how you want to do it. It's kind of like a textbook. So that's my view on it.
Ellen and then Karen.
I want to second what Robin said. In our last meeting, we talked about this, and I was one of the strong people who said, because last year I did 3 different courses with Pachamama Alliance. So I was talking globally with people about sustainability and social justice. And one of the points they made is that you can't separate the two. And the second one is that we're beyond sustainability. It's too late. The ship has sailed, and that regeneration is the only hope we have. So I feel that the languaging is very important to follow that realization and focus. Thank you.
Karen.
And I was going to add that a book like this, which I can't wait to get my hands on, is like a smorgasbord or a buffet, and we can go through like reference material and pick what's pertinent. Like if Robert hasn't finished already by then, he could say, oh, stick with these chapters and, for us to focus and prioritize. So thanks.
Carol.
How do we get the book? Do we order it on Amazon? Or?
No, I have 12 books here. So I was just looking at you all, figuring out my Santa run. I can drop one off. I think I know where you all live. Robin, I don't think I've ever been to your place yet, or Karen. So, or Ellen, I've been to your place. So I can either drop it off or you can pick it up. You just tell me what you want to do. I live in New Monterey, up from Cannery Row.
I'm over there on Tuesday this next week, so I'll swing by, Lori.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Monterey at least twice a week, so I can certainly come by and pick it up.
Yeah.
I can pick it up. I've been to your house before. I will text you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think I'm going to see you tomorrow. So
Okay.
if you'll bring it,
All right.
that'd be awesome.
Carol, would you like me to drop it off or you want to pick it up?
If you give me your address, I'll pick it up.
Okay, I'll send it. Okay, you ready for it?
Yeah.
455 Belden Street, Belden.
Okay. And will a book be outside or should
I will have them on the bench there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Your name's on it.
Okay.
Matt, I'll drop yours off. I know where you live.
Awesome. I will do my best to read it. I'd be happy.
Oh, yeah. After Christmas,
if any discussions come up about the ocean, I will be more than happy to contribute.
Okay. Tom, can you swing by and get it? You're on mute.
Yes, I can swing by your
Okay.
place.
Okay, I will leave all these outside. Robin, you have to let me know how to get to you, but I will leave these outside starting Tuesday morning with your names on. Okay.
Or Lori, we could each text you the day that we're planning to swing by and you could put just ours out.
Sure.
I mean, in case we get some desired rain or something.
How about tomorrow? Can we have one up tomorrow?
Yeah, they're sitting in right outside the porch right now, and it's a pretty safe place. You have to go through the gate and up. So I will. Yeah, you don't have to, but I'll put them there on the bench.
Robin, you still have your hand raised?
Robin?
Oh,
she
apparently not.
did.
Okay, we're good. All right. I think we have a plan to prepare for our planning.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. I look forward to the survey that you all come up with. And I'm happy to help with that if our committee meets to do that.
That sounds really good. So we didn't pick a date yet for the retreat, right?
No.
I'm just looking at the calendar. Yeah, are there any of those dates? I mean, I know Ellen suggested it be later, but are there any of those dates that just won't work for some of you? Because we have yet to find out Susan's schedule too, but we said the 26th of February, which sounds like that may be a little too soon. May not though either, but or March 12th, 19th, 26th. That's what we were thinking.
I can't make the 12th.
Okay.
Ooh, we have a board meeting that morning.
We have the board meeting.
Oh, I meant the 26th, 5th, 19th, and 26th. So those 4 dates. And so how about, based on what I've heard so far, should I put them in the list of priority going later, moving up for when Susan's available?
I would.
Okay. All right.
The 26th is generally not great for me. That last week of March, I usually do something with my kids.
Okay.
It's also Kathy Rivera's birthday.
I wasn't going to say anything.
So then let's give her 3 dates then. Then the 19th, the 12th, and the 26th of February.
Can't do the 12th.
It's our board meeting.
Oh, I meant the 19th, the 5th, and the 26th. How about that?
I won't be here the 5th. Why don't we, Lori, it seems like what's we're really going to dictate is a venue and also Susan. I mean, I think between getting when we can get a venue to have this place and when Susan is, we'll sort of dictate when we do it, I think. And then we'll just have to try to get.
Okay, so given that, should I go back to the 26th, 19th, 5th, and 26th, those 4? I think we could give her 3.
I don't see any reason why we can't do it in February. I mean, it all depends on if we have a place and Susan's ready.
Yeah, I think Susan was available in February, but I don't get her. I don't know her March. She was anxious to get it going because our last strategic plan ended 2020. All right, so I will find out. I've heard you. I'll just avoid the 12th and I'll see which she's available. And it sounds like the 5th would be perfect, huh?
Might be.
Except for Robert.
5th would.
The
5th,
5th
I will
of
not
which
be.
month?
I'll be in Yosemite then.
Oh,
The 5th of which month?
March.
of March.
I can't make the 5th either.
Okay, so the 19th and the 26th.
And the
19th?
26th of February. Could everybody make the 26th of February?
Sounds like it. So
So
yeah, that'll give us 2 months to review the book. And so, yeah, so it sounds like the 26th, sorry, Alan, would be the ideal. And if not that, I'll just see what date in March she could do it.
Okay.
Other than the 12th. How's that sound?
Okay, can we use a few minutes to talk about venue possibilities?
Sure.
And I'm just thinking of maybe going back to the church in Carmel Valley that we once met in.
I think Kathleen might be able to help with that because she's gotten very involved with the church there. So I agree. Let's see if we can use that. Any other suggestions?
Oh, maybe the library hall. There's a nice community hall in the Marina Library.
Oh yeah, I've been there. It is really nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a full kitchen, but it does have a room with a sink and refrigerator.
Okay, great.
I don't know what we've done for food in the past, but potlucks are held in there. And
That's perfect. I like it being there. Why don't we'll see which date. As soon as Susan gets back, we'll see which date and we'll start looking for venues. And those are the 2 that we'll start with.
Okay.
Yeah, the last time we had it, it was catered.
Yeah.
That's great.
That was okay.
Yeah.
And we don't
And
have
both
to-
those will be, I think we had some money stashed aside for it. And I think there's plenty, with Susan donating her time, there's plenty of money to go around for to have it catered. Okay.
Great.
Robert, did you have an additional comment remaining?
Oh, no, I think that covers it. And I would just say that Susan, she is a super expert facilitator for those people that don't know her. She facilitated Silicon Valley companies for strategic plans in her career. And the last time, her bill would have been $25,000 last time she did it, but she did it. We paid her a very small honorarium last time.
And as a former treasurer of CSMC, prior to Susan, we spent quite a bit of money on that facilitator before her.
I know. When I met with her, I was kind of feeling her out, and she just looked at me. She said, "Of course, I'll do this, Lori." so, yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm grateful.
Carol?
I'm wondering if the retreat is going to be primarily about this book, or if we need to plan about other things that might be discussed at the retreat.
I'd like to answer that.
Yeah.
No, it's much broader than the book. The book would be background information for us, but
Okay.
the book will not be a plan. And CSMC's mission is much broader than just climate change.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, it is. Look at our mission. It's also our resources. I mean, land is a resource.
Which is the same, which is all kind of the same thing.
Habitat is a resource. So, it is. It's and that's why we have a strategic plan to see where we're going to focus.
I'm really looking forward to hearing your review of the book that you read.
Yeah, every time
Well, I read the last book. So I have that in mind.
Every time I
already.
get involved in any aspect of this, though, it seems to affect everything. It's, climate change affects habitats and oceans and forests, and the whole plastic thing makes me crazy. And the methane, the SB 1383.
Yeah.
It all blends.
Yeah. Well, I look at it from the standpoint that climate change is one symptom of a much bigger problem. Okay.
Huh.
It's one of the symptoms of a much bigger problem. I mean, habitat loss, and it's another symptom. There's a lot of symptoms of the big problem. All right. And climate change is one of them.
I see it the other way around. I see I think all these other things.
So we're getting this is the kind of thing this is what a strategic plan is all about.
Well, and this is why I'm glad that we're all going to be reading the same book. And to answer your question, it's not going to be about the book, but we're going to use that book as guidance of where's going to be, where can we be the most effective in our organization in Monterey County, considering all these, the measured impact. What can we influence the most? And it's not climate change. I mean, because that's what Denise would always say. I would say, Denise, how are we going to know we've achieved our mission? She said, when the climate's cooler. I go, okay, that's a light to bite off. And it's just like so big to get your arms around. And it's just kind of confusing. And so I'm just hoping this book can kind of figure out where's like a heat map. Like where's it going to be the most beneficial in our local communities to spend our precious resource in our own time?
And I think you said too that there's going to be just kind of a questionnaire and a list of potential topics that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, so we can each kind of jot down our thoughts.
Right.
And because of where we live, ocean is a top priority.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a given.
And ocean and egg,
I think one of the benefits of all of us reading the same book is we maybe can consensus on a vocabulary that we all agree what the meanings of the words are, so that we don't spend a lot of time, say like in our strategic planning retreat, just talking past each other about what we're talking about. It's like when actually we're talking about the same thing, but we're using different words.
Less times on wordsmithing and all that. Right.
Exactly. So I think that will be a huge benefit of just taking a glance at this book and maybe agreeing that when we say this is what we mean. And we can telescope that to all other participants of the strategic planning event.
Well, January 11th discussion is going to be very interesting.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to this now already. Very good. If we can move down the agenda, then we're actually in really good shape in terms of time. If you are following MC Gives and our Natividad Creek Community Garden campaign, it's clicking along. Last I looked, we had well over $10,000 raised. Certainly, if you've missed an opportunity so far to donate, if you want to influence and forward any notices you've seen in your email box about it to people that you think might be sympathetic, please do that. I was interested to note Letty's observation that very few people from Salinas have donated. Now, without a big discussion as to, social economics and everything else, I know that there are plenty of really wealthy people in Salinas. So this is another thing that, maybe will possibly be a topic at our retreat about among the internal things that we can still work on is attending to our donor cultivation and management, and answer for ourselves. Now, why would that be? Are we just not paying any attention to Salinas? What's going on there? But overall, the peninsula is very supportive of the Salinas effort to have this community garden, which is also going to be a teaching lab. So it's much beyond just a few people raising some vegetables. And that is, I really think, the strength of this particular big idea.
There's also another MC Gives project with the Master Gardeners, and they want to establish a very similar idea out at the ag offices out at Abbott Street. They have some land there, and they want to do the same thing. They want to teach and do outreach. I mean, that's what Master Gardeners is about, is how to and what to do, how to do it and what to do. So I think might be a little bit of a competition for donations between those two projects, and because they're quite similar.
Mm-hmm.
Different quite different organizations, but the goals are not the same, but along the same ideas.
One of the things that I thought was so compelling about Letty's project is that I think she reaches a demographic that Master Gardeners probably seldom do. And that's just in my own experience of Master Gardeners here in Seaside. So I think we need both. And I am gratified that Letty is getting some traction on her fundraising. Plus, she's been very successful with some other fundraising. So if you add them all together, I think her project has very good prognosis for success. Carol.
I was impressed. Letty phoned me personally to thank me for my donation. So I thought that was really going above and beyond.
Yeah. It really
very thoughtful.
It speaks to who Leticia Hernandez really is. So we are very fortunate to count her in our ranks. Any other questions about that project, about MC Gives in general? I do thank each and every one of you who have already contributed and shown Letty our support.
Kathy, you were going to make some comment about if one sets up a donation page like on Facebook to get the board's approval first.
Thank you for reminding me. We all know about Amazon Smile. There used to be a grocery store project. I don't know if Whole Foods still does it, where various nonprofits can put their name in the hat to be the beneficiary. And actually, Ellen found another one on Facebook where Meta, I guess now, is running a matching program. The only thing that I would ask, if you want to have CSMC participate in something like that, that you contact, say, the executive committee, myself, or anybody else on that committee, so that we can review it, so that Matt gets a chance to see how the funds would flow from donors and into our bank account, those sort of mechanics. And also because, again, one of our principal responsibilities as a board is to manage the flow of money, both the money, where does money come from that goes into our bank account, and how do we spend it and account for it? So that we don't lose track of what's happening there. I just ask that you consult us, not that we want to turn it down, but that we do it properly.
And in case everybody doesn't know, Meta is the new parent company of Facebook, which I've recently learned. And the second thing is they were doing a grant matching for people who set up nonprofit things. And that was for Giving Tuesday. So that's passed. But
Right.
it was a lesson learned for what you just shared.
Right.
Thank you.
So just an awareness thing for all of us and anyone in your lags. I know I've had the experience of a lag saying, well, can we go after this grant and have it only come to us? Well, us is us. I mean, there is only one bank account. And as you'll see in the treasurer's report, each local action group has at least one account on the ledger, but that is, CSMC is only one nonprofit. So no, we need to manage all the money through that one bank account. All right. So then we are getting close to that report. I was just going to solicit any feedback that people had on the winter newsletter, which was supposed to be a fall newsletter. And as it turned out, it got out in December.
It's still fall.
It was
Yeah.
excellent. It was an excellent newsletter. Well written.
You did it. Yeah, you did a great job, Kathy. And
Well,
thank you to
Excellent.
Emma.
I had a committee, and so I have to. We had several authors. Tom Ward did an excellent job encapsulating the efforts of our county to do a climate action plan. Lori summarized the efforts of people with the trash cleanups. And then I solicited from each of the food community gardens because some of them predate the start of Monterey and PG. Well, Monterey anyway predated my membership on the board. So I wanted to make sure that I got all the histories of those gardens correct. And then of course we wanted to use that garden segment as a reinforcement for Letitia's fundraising. So I think we hit all the buttons. You would be amazed at how those few paragraphs are take so much work to get into a MailChimp format and well edited and with no errors. Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was awesome. Like it was really well written. The photos were incredible. I mean, it looked really good. So yeah, thank you. I was really impressed when it came through.
Well, terrific. We hope to, I would hope to have a quarterly, if not at least twice a year newsletter. Again, in terms of donor cultivation, I think it's so important for us to message out to people who have actually gotten out their checkbooks and written us a check, that they understand what in the world we're doing with that money. What are we doing? You know, they know what we're working towards in terms of our, overall mission, but what do we actually do? I think it's important to let them know. And to those of you who may not understand, how do we even know who to send it to? All of our efforts for outreach that mainly have been physical tabling at events, making our presence known at events that CSMC fits in with, whether it's the Whale Fest or Earth Day or whatever. We have sign-up sheets. Would you like to know more about our organization? And if people say yes, and they give us an email, they end up on that MailChimp list. And of course, anybody can disenroll at any time. But again, that is a way to cultivate both participation in our activities, volunteerism, and donors. So as much of a pain as putting that newsletter is, it is an important vehicle. And I will be looking for new members for the next ad hoc committee to put together the newsletter unless we institutionalize that committee. Matt?
Just thought this is a good time for my quarterly. We're looking for a vice president of outreach. And this is the exact kind of thing that a vice president of outreach would be doing. These kind of posts, social media posts, and engaging with the public to let people know what we're doing, because we're kind of like a secret beneficial organization doing all these great things, but nobody really seems to know about it. So that could be you, or that could be a friend of yours. Please consider it.
Right. And if it is beyond something that you feel like you could make a commitment to, if you know any potential candidates who would be willing to explore what that role would, if that role would fit for them as a volunteer, many people, it borders on the edge of the activities of a executive director. And in Monterey County, that person on average, this is just the average, gets paid $70,000 a year with benefits. So, and I'm sure there's some executive directors that get paid much, much more than that. So asking for a volunteer to just chip in and fill that kind of role is not a small ask, but we could just start with having this person be the person who focuses on this external communication, on this outreach, and coordinating the efforts of all the lags so that the lags don't reinvent the wheel. If we can institutionalize and streamline how our messaging gets out, our management of our MailChimp lists, that sort of thing, that would be all to the good. But right now, we really don't have that function covered well. And where it's not happening, somebody just has to step into the void. And that's how we got that newsletter. All right. On to our committee reports, because this finance report is important, and I hope you all had a chance to look at it. So if you have questions, you're ready for Matt.
All right, pulling it up right now. So I've got my notes in front of me. The finance report. So we have two figures on here. We have the first one, which shows our total assets. Looking at that figure, I really don't have anything in particular to note. There's one thing on here, and that is that we do have a new column on there called pledges. And that is for Sustainable Salinas Local Urban Gardeners. That's Salinas Valley Memorial. They're going to make a $10,000 donation to the local urban gardeners. They required an invoice to do so. And so an invoice is technically accounts receivable, which is an asset of ours, which means that it is listed here. I decided to call it a pledge because it's not like if they don't pay that invoice, we can really do anything because we haven't actually sold them anything or provided any services. Any questions about, well, you know what, let's just do questions at the end. Figure 2 is our budget. We have 3 columns on figure 2. We have our actual expenditures for 2021 in the first column. We have our budget
Matt,
for 2020.
can you do a share screen?
I think I can.
I mean,
Give me a second here.
Never mind, but that would be kind of helpful. So we all know what we can see what you're.
Yeah, let's see. I have a lot of windows open right now. It's finals. Let's see. There it is. Okay, can you guys see a screen that says figure 2 CMC? Okay, great. Yeah, I'm just doing this out of my email right now. So here we have 2021, our actual expenditures. In our second column, we have 2021 budget, right? So if you compare the two, you can see areas where we have gone over in our expenditures. A couple of interesting notes. Our endowment distribution was not budgeted this year, but it did come in as part of our income. We were a little bit over in advertising and radio, but not significantly, just $31.33. Other than that, we're pretty much under budget on every other line item. So if you look at this year, we were projected to actually make $1,500. We made close to $9,000 in the core. We are a nonprofit. That doesn't mean we can't make more money than we spend, right? Which is technically making a profit. That being said, I say this every single time, we should spend our money. That's what people are giving us money to do, is to spend it on things in our community. I see a raised hand by Robert. Robert, you're muted. Oh, Robert, I think you're still muted. There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you all and also inform our new members of the board that this budget is only for one part of CSMC, which we call the core. Our expenditures are much broader than that because the local action groups all have their expenditures but there's a couple of things I just wanted to mention on this, and that is on the income side of it. There's a column, there's a category here called board members, And that's there because very often when we're writing a proposal, a potential funder wants to know, how much money do your board members donate? How much money do individuals donate? How much money do you get from grants? How much this and that? And one of the things I was thinking about, and that is a lot of that where board members donate are not in the core. This is only one part of our budget, our expenditures. Board members often donate to one of the sub-accounts for instance, Monterey Gives. If you give money to Monterey Gives, it doesn't appear in our core budget. The Monterey Gives expenditures, when they're doing those projects or donating it, they appear on one of the local action groups sub-account list. And so when we need a way of sort of every year totaling up what the actual board members and other individuals actually donate. And so I was going to suggest something, we have to address that in some way on our record keeping. And maybe if we had another revenue category called Monterey Gives, money that goes into Monterey Gives, that would appear then on one of the local action groups. It would remind us that there's a list. We get a list every year from Monterey Gives of who actually donated, and that information sort of evaporates, and we don't know who actually, after a year, we don't know who gave to Monterey Gives anyway, what board members gave to. I think we need to start keeping those records. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Robert, because I used to, just as a board member, and just make a separate donation. But the last couple of years, I've tried to give it to Monterey Gives because we get a little bit of money back. I mean, they add a little bit of money to my contribution. So I think you raise a good point. Thank you.
Yes, and Robert, I totally agree that we need to be tracking those donations from Monterey County Gives and following up with letters or whatever of thanks. And I'm still not clear. You're saying that the expenditures that you're showing here on this actual 2021 budget or finance statement does not include expenditures of the lags? And where is that? Who's keeping track of that, or where's the report of that, if that's the case?
We do keep track of it. We don't talk about it in our board meetings. If you look up at the assets, essentially the lags are kind of in charge of just making sure that they stay in the green. We don't track their budgets. They track their old budgets and how they spend their money. That being said, all money that comes in and all money that comes out is, this is essentially our chart of accounts right here. It's tracked in the same manner. So at the end of the year, when we do our full annual report, we will have this, essentially our profit and loss, which is also our budget, will be for all sub-accounts and the core, so all CSMC. So if you were to go back and look at, say, the annual report from 2020, which came out in January, February of this year, you would see that this figure here would include all of the assets, all of the lags assets as well. Expenditures.
Oh, okay.
And revenue.
All right. Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's a little confusing, and I'm always happy to provide that information if you guys want it. We're not very, we're happy to share. When we're in our board meetings, I think that the idea is that we really just focus on the core and core management.
Robert, you had another question?
Well, I was just saying that, it's basically the core, which is really the overheads of the organization that the board has direct control of, whereas the local action groups control their expenditures and their budgets. And so when we make a decision, it has to do really with the core budget. whereas the local action groups decide how they're going to be spending their money and how they budget their money.
Right. And then Robert, to your earlier point about tracking Monterey County gives donors, absolutely, I can start doing that. Yeah.
Right. So having been part of, this is my third campaign that I've had insight to, MC Gives will issue throughout the campaign a regular report on donations. And then after the first of the year, after the campaign's closed, there will be essentially a final report. They'll say like, okay, this is it. By December 31st, this was all the money that came in under your account. And here is the list. And that list is very important because they don't keep that. Nobody keeps that for you. And they tell you that up front. They say, once we give you the final report, that's it. You can't come back to us and say, gee, you know, in 2017, who donated to our campaign? They don't keep it. And neither does the Community Foundation. So I've tried to stress this with Letty because those reports are going to her now, that we need to capture that. I have the last two, but I don't have anything previous to that. So with whatever data, another little project of mine is to collate this donor information as part of this effort to cultivate donors, make sure people got thanked, and account for who gave what when. So in that effort, we could then flag how many of those donations were the board members and how many were other people. But I'm not an accountant, but I'm not sure how we would account for that in these books because of the nature of MC Gives, especially. It actually is a donation that does not come to us. It goes to the Community Foundation and they give us a big fat check. So it is a little muddled. So this other accounting of donations is on us, I think, to make sure we have a mechanism for it.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, these records, we need to get them digitized and in our Google Drive in the treasure folder in real time. You know, as they're coming in, I think we need to scan them and upload them so that they're there. How we account for them in QuickBooks, I mean, I'm not too worried about that. We can work with Karen and figure that out. Okay. So I think the first step is to make sure we actually have the records, because if we don't have that, then
right,
nothing else really matters.
Right. I've sent Robert on a research project through Denise's computer because I'm pretty sure those final reports all came to her previous to my involvement in the last 3 years. So maybe they're there, maybe they're not. I looked in the drive. I didn't find them anyplace there.
No. Okay. So right now,
I will look. I have that on my list to rummage through Denise's computer and see if I can find it.
Okay. Thanks.
And I just, for the two of you, I just created a new folder in the CSMC Treasurer Drive called MC Gives.
Okay.
So let's put everything in there.
Okay. I will. Dutifully.
Oh, and you guys saw me do that. Cool. I forgot I was sharing. There you go. Okay. 2022 budget. Just about everything in the 2022 budget remains the same, with some pretty, two major things, both stemming from the same thing, and that is our retreat next year. We have an in-kind donation here for $25,000. That's the expected donation for our facilitator. In-kind donations are interesting because they balance. You have an in-kind donation where they donate their time worth $25,000. We say thank you for $25,000 worth of your time. Then that, if you go down here to consulting services, balances out as a $25,000 expense. And so that's how that gets recorded. So our expenses and our donations are both going to go up significantly next year by the same amount. So they balance out. I went with 25,000. When I looked at our records, it looked like we paid 20,000 last time. So I added 5,000 just because it's been a few years. But Robert, if you're saying we paid $25,000 last time, then we might need to bump this up to closer to 30. But again, they balance. And before we do anything like that, of course, I will run it by the board. It will really just depend on once we actually get an idea of what that number is. Endowment distributions will appear in next year's budget. I went with 5,000, which is a little bit less. I just rounded down to the closest thousand, but that's going to be market dependent. So it's really hard to actually predict what that's going to be. Hopefully it's in the 5,000 range again. Moving down to event expenses, I put 5,000. Again, that's going to be for our retreat. That might fluctuate. And again, once we get more information, probably later this year or early next year, that number may need to change. And of course, we'll need to run that by the board if it does, by more than $500. Beyond that, everything is the same. And that is my proposed 2022 budget.
I had a comment on the item for rent. If I'm not mistaken, that was always in the budget for the Peace Center, where we used to hold our in-person meetings and also our brunches, and even committee meetings if we really felt we needed to. Well, back in the old days, we actually almost always met in person. I would just suggest, since we've become comfortable with Zoom and people seem to prefer it for these meetings that the board holds, that we still perhaps think about having one in-person board meeting per year. I'm thinking for our new board members, it's very possible you've never actually physically been in a room with several members of our board, that it just feels like we should have that happen. Of course, right now we've got, public health concerns. We're in extraordinary times still, but just putting out there that we are not using that budgeted money, but we could. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the Peace and Justice Center on Fremont in Seaside. We could, hold that meeting someplace else. I don't know if anyone else has a strong opinion about in-person meetings versus Zoom meetings for the board.
I think with our numbers, we could maintain social distancing. And it's a large space.
Right.
So I would be open to, considering it as long as we took proper precautions.
And we certainly are hoping that our strategic planning retreat will be an in-person event. I would be challenged to think how we would manage it otherwise, but to be further discussed. Just, it prompted me, this line item, we aren't spending that money because obviously we are not meeting in person, and we haven't been giving that donation, which effectively is a donation to the Peace and Justice Center.
My comment is that right now I appreciate that we are on Zoom, not only for health reasons, also because we're not putting any gas out in the environment to drive to the meeting. It also saves time, commute time, and is easier to schedule the meeting to the days that they're on. Those are just my footnotes. Thank you.
I like your idea, Kathy, of having one, maybe one a year. And I was going to ask, I was lucky enough when I lived in Pleasant Hill, but I got introduced to CSMC. Denise invited me to the brunch at the Peace Center. This was maybe 2019, before COVID, obviously. But that was so nice. That was one of the reasons I remained so interested in this group. So I don't know if there's been any discussion about having a brunch in 2022.
Well, we've been having our brunches online. We've managed to keep at least the reporting function of the lags and some sharing, and we've had some guest speakers, and it's been modestly successful in that regard. But it is not really anything like the experience you had with us in that room. At the present time, we are not planning on the next brunch being in person, but to be further discussed along with the rest of the world holding its breath on exactly what is going on with our public health. And, but I appreciate your comment, because I actually also feel we are missing something by not meeting in person. Let's see.
And another quick footnote, we used to have a Christmas party every year,
Right.
which was a really nice time to get to know each other personally outside the formal structure of our meetings. Thank you.
Let's see, I know Robert's had his hand up and then Lori.
Well, I was just sort of echoing you in that the brunches, I think, are more important to have live because they serve other functions too. It's a good place for recruiting people. I mean, inviting people that you want to join the organization to the brunch. It's a very powerful tool in recruiting volunteers for, especially for boards and things like that. So I think we'd like to, as soon as health permits, start having brunches real. And I think that having this experience of having board meetings online is good because we're geographically
But I guess I'll be getting two files, huh? I was at Sweet Elena's the other day, and they said, you have to show proof of vaccination to eat inside. And I was also at a meeting up at Waste Management, and throughout that whole meeting, I had to wear a mask. So, we just need to think about that because I think that would be very, very important. And I don't know if we're going to take it on to make sure, see everybody's vaccination, card or what, but it's just something to think about because it's going to be a long time before people can be comfortable meeting in person.
Indeed. Robin?
Yeah, I look forward to having an in-person board meeting myself because there's people on the board I've never met. So I'd be just thrilled to be able to see people in person with safety. Like we could do a rapid test before we show up. We can make sure we're vaccinated. We wear masks. There's things that we can do to make sure that we're health-wise very safe. But I look forward, if we do those things, I think meeting in person will be okay because we're not 100 people, we're 12 people, 11 or whatever. So I think we can ask people to do a rapid test, make sure you're vaccinated, and wear a mask. And I don't think that's outrageous to ask. And if you're not vaccinated, then the rapid test is more important. So I think that we, as a smaller group, could do this kind of thing, and I look forward to it because I haven't met some of you. So I'd like to say yes, let's do that in the future. Thank you. And I also like having meetings by Zoom. I do appreciate that.
Matt?
Yeah. Quick reminder: we're talking about the budget right now, but I'll give my 2 cents here as well. I really appreciated Ellen's point that we're not driving to meetings. I think that is a huge thing. I mean, these little trips are really what cause the most emissions. I think that it's really important too, because Monterey County is such a large county. If you think about it, our footprint's actually pretty small. We are 100% North County. And if we did ever want to think about the South County and the things that are happening down there, because there's a lot happening down there, this would be the way that we would do it. Nobody's going to want to drive 2.5 hours to a board meeting on the peninsula. So I don't think this should go away, but I would love to see everybody in person. And even if it's not for a board meeting inside in a room cluttered, what if we did something even like we just picked a day where we all went out and volunteered at one of our sites together. We have so many opportunities just to be in person and do something and be in each other's presence. Maybe if we rallied behind the local urban gardeners and just went out for a day with Leticia and just
love that idea.
That's a great idea.
There's so many things that we could do. So Oak Woodlands, there's a lot going on in Seaside. Yeah, there's a ton that we could do.
I
So
love that idea.
that's one idea. But what do you guys think about my 2022 budget?
Yeah, right. Do I have a motion to accept this budget.
I second it.
Second.
Okay,
Oh, Kathy, you just moved to.
I just moved to
it.
accept
Okay.
this budget, and Susan, I believe, seconded for the
Okay.
record there.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Robin, a final comment?
I'm going to lower my hand right now
Okay,
and lowered.
okay, all right. Moving on to the Education Committee. Ellen, you said there wasn't much to report at this point.
Okay, I just wrote down a few sentences. The Educational Committee has not met recently. We are currently in our final phase of polishing the website for a resource for teachers. And again, I want to thank Emily for the mechanics of setting up the website, and Lori for her continued assistance to do everything she can to add to it and make it better. Thank you.
All right, Tom, the legislative.
Okay, here we go. There was a county alternative energy environment meeting on November 18th. And the primary purpose was to introduce the greenhouse gas emission inventory for the county. And prior to this, back in April of this year, Landwatch contracted with an environmental consulting group called Eco Data Labs in an effort to help the county come up with an accurate greenhouse gas emission inventory. And the results of that were that 45% of greenhouse gases were coming from the ag community and 31% from transportation. Industrial emissions and natural gas usage certainly remained substantial throughout the county, but through the transition to the Central Coast Community Energy and their 100% carbon-free electricity portfolio, that's virtually eliminated the electricity emissions. So the findings from Landwatch's consultant was clearly that the county should devote as much attention as possible to ag and transportation. Subsequent to that, so that happened in April. Then now we are here in November 18th. The county hired their own consultant, and they went about trying to calculate the greenhouse gas emissions. And the year that they chose was 2019. That was the most recent data that they had. And the county came up with emissions through the county, but then also the munitions from their own operations. So what the county came up with was that agriculture was 33%, transportation was 30%, and down the list. I won't go through it all, but those, again, they came to the same conclusion that ag and transportation were the largest contributors, but not nearly as much as Landwatch's consultant came up with for ag. In terms of the municipal greenhouse gas emissions, employee commute was number one at 50%, buildings and facilities 28%, and county vehicle fleet at 18%. So those are the numbers that they then presented to the community at large. And they were presented to focus groups and trying to be as transparent as possible. Well, you can imagine the ag community pushed back hard on those numbers. insisting that there's no way that 33% are coming from ag. And in this particular meeting, Chris Lopez who represents South County. He was, very strong in being skeptical of these numbers. Kim Stemler, who is the major representative for the Wine Growers Association, also insisted that the wine industry in South County, that they're very sustainable. They produce very minimal greenhouse gas emissions and so on. The cattle industry complained that these are very inaccurate numbers. Anyway, so, Ashley Paulsworth and the consultants are going to have their hands full from a political standpoint to try to come up with the most accurate measures possible. And so at the end of the meeting, Chris Lopez and Wendy Root Askew requested a separate meeting open to the public that would do a deep dive into how these greenhouse gas emissions numbers were derived. They want to have full transparency, which is good. So, it's an ongoing a work in progress. But in addition to all that, Ashley Paulsworth is also now responsible for coming up with a climate resilience assessment. And that's going to look at wildfire risk, extreme heat events, large flooding, and sea level rise. I mean, this is taking on another major initiative. And then beyond that, she's charged with coming up with a community climate action and adaptation plan, CCAAP. And this is going to go far beyond reducing emissions to things like green jobs, workforce development, public health and safety, infrastructure development and protection, and improve prospects for youth and minorities. I mean, I just don't, I think this is my personal opinion, and this is just becoming such a large project, and I don't think they're going to meet the time frame that they're targeting for a climate action plan at this point, with all these additional things that people want included. So that's it on the meeting. One other thing is, I think most people may have read, it is important that the Board of Supervisors is enthusiastically behind implementing more charging stations throughout the county. They haven't decided how to fund that yet, but they charged Ashley Paulsworth to research that and to come up with a plan. Currently, the county only has 1,555 charging stations in the entire county. And in order to meet our target for the 2030 goal, we're going to need to implement another 1,000 a year between now and 2030. So Ashley's trying to come up with where the funding would come from that, who they would partner with, and so on. But then it's a step in the right direction, and it's glad that the board is fully behind that. So that's it.
Thanks, Tom. Ellen, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I appreciate that they want to do an action plan that's more broad, but I also have a gut reaction that it's taking some of the focus off the main targets for the polluters. And I want to be sure that doesn't happen.
Might want to attend the meeting.
Good point, Ellen.
Or make public, either attend the meeting or make comment to the board or to whatever body, to Ashley, so that it gets in the record. Robin, and then Lori.
Yeah, Tom, do you know if it included gases released by plowing? Do you have any idea if they included that in their assessment of ag's contribution?
They are looking at any ag equipment emissions. They call that off-road emissions. They are considering that, yes. They're trying to gather that information.
But actually breaking the ground with a plow releases greenhouse gases. So it's not, plus
Well, Robin, I lost your
I lost your audio.
audio. Well, Robin, see if you can reconnect Robert
back.
and then Lori.
we're back.
Oh,
I'm back.
okay.
So my internet goes in and out, but anyway, I just want to know if they're considering when you disturb the ground, how much greenhouse gas you release. And it doesn't sound like they are.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure, Robin.
And Robin, these, if you possibly tune in to any of these meetings where these very issues, the minutia of these issues are going to be discussed, see if you can tune in and or at least make public comment about this.
Yeah, Tom, if you could let us know when these meetings are going to happen, if you know about them, then that'd be good.
Okay.
Robert, Lori, I'm not sure who was first.
I just wanted to mention that the Alternate Energy and Environment Committee meetings, that's where the two Board of Supervisors sit in. It's also where our organization seems to have a lot of influence. And in fact, Ashley is there because of CSMC. And otherwise, and she's a real powerhouse. They picked a good person for this job. And everything that we can do to help Ashley will be good, to support her in any way we can. And I'm not sure how we do that. Attending the meetings and being present there helps. And Tom and I usually are always at those meetings. So I just wanted to point that out.
Lori?
What was I gonna say? Oh, Tom, so I think this request was made last time. Do you have like a write-up of the results of the committee, or should I just transcribe what you just said? But there's so much going on. I was wondering if you could submit something that I could send along with the board minutes.
The results of their inventory?
No, not just a recap of just like what you. Unless you think I'll just transcribe everything you just said, but if there's some kind of, outcome or notes from that meeting, I could attach it.
I'm not sure you're asking something beyond what I presented.
Well, I remember last time in our last meeting, I think Ellen asked if you could submit a report, like we have just a legislative report, but I'll just transcribe what you said. But if, you're looking down like notes, if there's something, because there's a lot going on there. And I'm really thinking about like what you said Ashley's doing and what she's kind of adding to it. So we can kind of.
Yeah, well, Tom, you've submitted a written report of your comments before, haven't you?
I have, and this last one, if Lori transcribed it, she got it right on. I mean, what.
That's fine. I'll just do the same on this one. That's fine. Okay. Well, there's something else I was going to say. Okay, I guess that's it.
All right. Well, Tom, we really, really appreciate the role that you play in helping make sure that CSMC has a presence at these meetings, and also that we get reported back to us what is going on, so that we can be proactive, just as Robert suggests.
Yeah.
And please, I encourage everyone, use the power of the pen. If you can't physically, make the in-person meetings or in-time meetings when they're Zoom, I know that they legally have to receive your public comment either before or after the meeting. So take the time to jot down your notes, your concerns, and make sure that they realize that we're paying attention. All right, community engagement, Lori.
Okay, got 3 things to cover. I don't even have my notes here. First of all is and I have to think about what we talked about in the executive committee versus the board meeting. So community engagement, I think I talked to you all once about having Blue Zones project, that they can, partner. They're therefore building a community, but it's more around the health. And so they're available, and I will send you all their information of, like who the contact person is for like scheduling beach, cleanups. I think our contact person covers Seaside, Marina, Monterey. I don't think it covers PG, but I'll give you this person's name. Now, the benefits of Blue Zones project is they will promote your event, recruit volunteers, and then collect signatures. And they, their whole business model is all about data. So they will record the volunteers who register and show up, they sign a waiver and everything. And so we don't get the benefit of knowing like who's all there unless they sign our sheet and when we're there. So they're a great partner for those kinds of events. Okay. There's a second organization called Monterey Community Builders of Monterey County. And it's her name is Tish Salmon, and she participated in that service enterprise class that we went through to come up with the diagram. And she has a site that's called Community Builders of Monterey County. This is to be a clearinghouse for volunteers. So you register as a nonprofit. There's Save the Whales, there's Surfrider, they're all these organizations, the SPCA. I mean, it's like when you need a volunteer for something, and Blue Zones post there too. And so they will promote your event. But the one thing they don't do is they send you the volunteers. They send you someplace to an email or a website or event. So like you have to be ready to accept the volunteers who are interested in yours. So it's really, really a cool site. And I thought maybe I could have her kind of come to a board meeting, whatever, but I signed up Sustainable Monterey. And then, so this is what I suggest that we do, is that each of the local action groups register on that. And I'm going to be providing a boilerplate of like what your name would be. And then I want you to dash CSMC so that they see that we're all the same part of the organization. And then you have a portal into their site to promote your events, and they will promote it. They sent out an email just not too long ago about give the gift of time this holiday season, and they promote your events. And so I'm recommending that each of the local action groups register as CSMC. Not only do they promote your events and on a calendar, then it goes into a great big calendar, but they also publish like roles needed. So this outreach coordinator. So what I'm going to suggest we do is that we have we register each of the local action groups, but we also have CSMC. And then what you have to do with these things is you have to define what that role is, the skills needed, the kind of person, the time expected, what responsibilities will they take on, what are the and the partners, and so I am going to suggest we will, as a board, will sign up CSMC and we'll post this outreach coordinator and then it goes out to everybody, and people's looking for their time. So we're on the board for that. So I'm just thrilled to have that kind of clearinghouse for our events, each local action group events, and for the roles that we need filled in CSMC. Okay. Yeah. So I'll be sending out a message to all local action group leads or the board on how to register and just kind of the boilerplate naming conventions and stuff. Okay.
Fortunately, we have a job description for that vice president position.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing you have to do with, so that's really great for things that we know that we need. That still means we are still going to use, so my second point is the volunteer interest form. So it's kind of hard to have a volunteer interest form. I forget how many people we have in there, but a lot of them are old. I mean, and it's really good. So anyway, what I did with Colleen is I organized all the records in there, and they're like by date. and I put them in by each local action group. And what I'm going to be asking each local action group is to look at that list for yours. And, if you know somebody who's moved on, it's obsolete, to delete them, or I'll give you a way to delete them. And then also you make calls and emails and see if they're still interested, what's changed. And that's kind of our recruiting grounds for people. But you have to kind of match it, like, this is what I want to do. And then this is what role or event we have for you to do. So it's, so we still need that, because we'll still need someone, some place to sign people up when they want to get involved. But then that means that each local action group needs to call them and interview them and talk to them and recruit them for a specific thing, for a specific role. So, well, what I noticed is that we have this volunteer interest form. It was on a shared drive. And what I would like to do is create, I looked in the CSMC drive. We have a shared drive. We have a treasurer, secretary board. I'd like to propose that we create another folder for local action group coordination. And in that folder, I will put this volunteer interest form that starts the date, that fills the database, and I'll move everything into that folder that we need to communicate across and share across the local action groups. And so is that all I've got going on? Yeah.
And then, Matt, having dealt with access issues before, we need to make sure that we, when we create that, we give access to at least the lag leaders and the board at minimum, so that when they go to use it or follow a link, they can get in.
I don't think it should be well, yeah, Matt, you can just help me. I'd like to create another.
It's done. So I created the folder. It's called Lab Coordination. It's a shared drive. Lori, I made you a manager, which means that you can add people. Kathy, I'm making you a manager as well.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Terrific. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of potential there too for the organization's growth. Ellen, did you have a specific question about this topic?
No, I just wanted to add a footnote. Tanya Roos is the community program manager, and she used to be the head of Me Earth. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say we have, she's an old friend, and it's nice to have her back on the peninsula.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she moved to Seaside. Yay, our gang.
Okay. And also I have to leave in 5 minutes because I have a class on Zoom. So
okay, let me jump ahead and make sure you realize that our next board meeting is March 12th. Make sure that's on your calendar. And then stay tuned for all the activity around planning our strategic retreat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen, for all that you bring to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we are at old business. I couldn't think of anything that was left hanging when we created the agenda. If anyone else can, I appreciate it. It's possible that I have forgotten something. Seeing nothing.
I just want to touch base about the watershed signage on Highway 101. It still hasn't started yet. I'm getting a lot of excuses from the company, so I don't know what's up with that. So I keep talking with them and see why because the contract's been signed and why they haven't begun to install them. So anyway, I'll keep talking to the company and try to figure out what's going on.
Great. Thanks for the update. Anyone else with old business from previous meetings that had been left hanging in your mind? Let's see, we do not have, we only have the June 11th date set for 2022 calendar of meetings. We can put that off until we're into the new year. I know it's kind of hard for people to be blocking out time at this point in time. Who knows what the future will hold?
I have a placeholder.
I have to say,
That's true.
As seeing as many years as I have in my life already, I don't think I have ever greeted a new year with more complete wonder at what possibly could be coming in the next year, because I certainly wouldn't have called last year's events. So with that, anyone else have a comment? Carol?
Yes, I just wanted to let the board know about the Fortag developments in Delray Oaks.
Oh, thank you.
If you, CSMC has supported Fortag, and at the last Delray Oaks Council meeting, the council voted to put it up to, there was a petition opposing the Fortag Trail through Delray Oaks. And the council members voted to put it up to an election, which will be held in June. Right now, my sense is the community is mostly opposed to the Fortag Trail. And I think that's because of some really bad information that has been put out. And so I hope the board will stay informed about what's going on in our little city, because this is going to impact the whole region. And we're working hard to convince some of these wavering voters, but there's a lot of work to be done on that.
Thank you, Carol. It's unfortunate. Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that. This is big. This is not just a Delray Oaks issue. This could impact the Fortag trails for the entire coastal region if it doesn't pass there. So,
Yeah.
Carol, keep us informed if we need to go knock on doors or something in May.
Okay.
Whatever it takes. This is a game changer for the Monterey area.
Okay, thanks.
I do think that's a really important point, Matt, because I did go door to door with some notices on the public meeting they had in Delray Oaks about this issue, and talked with some Delray Oaks residents. And I think they are not seeing beyond their parochial concerns about the paths being, the routes being right in Delray Oaks. I think if voters understood how difficult it will be for any other segment of this trail to be built or funded if it fails in Delray Oaks. If Delray Oaks says, no, we don't want it, there will be the perception that, well, that's what all the other communities around Monterey County are going to say about segments that go through their municipalities. So I certainly don't think that's true in Seaside, but that is the perception in Delray Oaks, is this is just a local issue, and it's not.
No.
This could impact any future for that trail anywhere else.
So I think it's important then, as May and June rolls around, that there be a really clear marketing flyer put together that says, thanks for being a team player in the community, so like to really, have us something to talk to, that it's really key and it's not just them. So that, that it's really big, and that you're, one cog in this huge, wheel. I think it's going to be really important that we put that in the marketing campaign things when we go around.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, Carol, keep us apprised of efforts that I know that Sustainable Delray Oaks is working on this, and if we can participate in any way, and let us know.
Okay. Is this trail issue up for a vote in any of the other towns yet?
No.
Could it be?
The only reason it's up for a vote in Delray Oaks is because there has been this contingent of opposition to it, and because it's the first segment, and that's why it's so influential. As far as we know, none of the other communities have objection to Fortag connecting them to the coastal trail. So it was just very unfortunate that this was the first segment and that we had this opposition.
And it's too late to start with somebody else, huh?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too, because Delray Oaks would be much more inclined to just go along in the trend if it had been approved somewhere else.
It just goes to show you have to consider these political scenarios.
Every step
is where to start. You have to do that with everything to these days,
right? There are multiple agencies. TAMSI, the entire transportation agency, is a partner in this Fortag trail, and as is the state of California. this was not just a local effort either, just to put this, get this first segment off of the ground, and then public money from a elected measure was accessed. So it was a pretty big deal to get this first thing lifted off the ground with millions, tens of millions of dollars. And that's all about to sail away
This
on
is-
the boat of the Delray Oaks 1,500 people.
Even bigger, I mean, this is a global issue, right? This is a
Right.
climate change solution. If our county's biggest emissions are coming from transit,
Mhm.
active transit is a fantastic, I mean, this is going to connect Monterey, which is a major working hub, with Seaside and Marina, which are major living hubs, and Ryan Ranch, which is another place where a lot of people work as well. I mean, it's in a place where we get sunshine, you know, nowadays all the time. There's no reason not to bike. It's the perfect
Yeah.
place for it.
And this would be a dedicated, safe, non-auto trail that connects all of these communities. So as I said in my public comments, I hope that Delray Oaks is not where this tremendously great idea went to die.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Okay.
All right. Well,
We should definitely add that to the list on in the retreat
now the
for the strategic action plan or for strategic plan. We
I
should
would have no resistance to some plank in that plan dealing with the Fortec Trail. Any other comments about anything on the agenda? Any other concerns? Thank you.
I move to adjourn.
Yes, I thank you all so much for your time and appreciate that everybody made it to the bitter end. And I hope that everyone stays healthy and is able to enjoy a wonderful holiday season. We all need it, I think. And stay tuned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Come get your book.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Bye. Tuesday.